Let's freaking go. I don't know what happened to my intro tonight. Type Y for yes, type in for no if you can hear me loud and clear. Because, boy, I have never in my life, in my existence, been more proud that Brian Kelly is our head coach. Because today, at the SEC League meeting, the LSU Tigers proved to the rest of the SEC that they are not a bitch. I pride myself on not cursing. Sometimes I'll let one fly, but I am so sick and tired of the Southeastern Conference. And I love the SEC. I have Power Hour SEC. But all of this mumbo jumbo, we need auto bids, we need assurances if we need to go to a 9-game conference schedule that we get for auto bids. Who's to say that that is not even a good idea for the SEC? It's probably not. And I'll tell you why coming up. But I want you to listen very closely to what Scott Woodward had to say at SEC Media Days to the great Paul Feinbach.
What is your thought on the current health of this industry?
Yeah.
What is your thought on the current health of this industry?
Yeah, it's concerning, and you could write a dissertation about what's wrong and what's good, because there's going to be a serious gap in haves and have-nots. And is that good for the overall sport? And I'm not smart enough to tell you that I know. I just know that, hey, I'm paid to worry about LSU,
right.
and I do that first and foremost. But I do have grave concerns of where this is going and what's going to happen, even within our conference and even within the Power Four. Hey, where and how does this thing evolutionize, and what do we turn into? And here again, I'm not smart enough to know. I just try to continue plowing ahead and doing the right thing.
All right. I hope that whole thing played. I don't know why my software is deciding to give me a difficult time, but the bottom line is LSU, for the longest, this has been years, they have said louder than anyone else, we don't mind playing a 9-game conference schedule. No matter what is put out in front of us, we want to play a 9-game conference schedule. We think it is better for the SEC. It is better for the fans. It is better for the players to play a 9-game conference schedule. Now, I personally do agree with that. But notice you don't see LSU running to the media and saying, hey, we need 9 games. And we also, if we were to play 9 games, we need to make sure we get at least 4 of our teams into the college football playoff. You do not see LSU bitching about it. Now, I want to show you something else.
Paul, I can't speak for the people that are just dead set for the 8. I don't think it's as many as people think, but they have points that, hey, it's tough to get bowl eligible. It's tough to compete in our league, which is a meat grinder, and I get all that. I understand it. But at the end of the day, I think my coach, Coach Kelly, our coach at LSU, really said it best. Hey, look, I came in here to play the best and be with the best, and I want to give the fans the best. And I think it makes even more sense now that we're expanding the playoffs to have tough, good games, and you can lose 2 games and still make the playoffs.
What if I told you that clip is from 2023? All right? So the first Scott Woodward clip is from 2025. That last clip is from 2023. LSU has stood 10 toes down and said, we are not scared to play anybody. You don't need to guarantee us a bid. You don't need to guarantee the SEC to get 4 teams into the college football playoff. They were one of 5 bold teams that said, look, let's move this thing to a 9-game conference schedule when they voted on it before last offseason. And now you got Texas A&M, which is the most Texas A&M thing you could possibly do. You have Texas A&M saying, hey, we need 9 conference games. And if we are to get the 9 conference games, we need the college football playoff auto bids, as if Texas A&M is ever going to get into the college football playoff. They have not won anything. Why are they worried about the college football playoff when they should be worried about actually winning something of significance in any sport? So whatever the case may be, I am proud that Brian Kelly isn't scared. And look, amongst the LSU YouTubers, probably more so than others, I am someone that has been probably more critical of Brian Kelly. Even though he is a coach of my favorite team, I overall like him. I overall think he has done a fine job here at LSU. But the one thing I could say, even if I was not an LSU fan, is I do appreciate his boldness. Even I have suggested that LSU should rethink their tough season opener schedules that they have had, because we obviously never fire on all cylinders in the first game of the year. Brian Kelly says no to that. We will continue to play difficult season openers. We have not necessarily fielded an elite team yet on both sides of the football. We have fielded an elite offense with Jaden Daniels in 2023. We have had good offenses basically every year. We have had defenses and special teams, in particular that first season. But even with all of that, Brian Kelly says bring on 9 games. From day one, bring on 9 games. It is better for you, the college football fan. It is better for everybody that we play 9 conference games. So type Y for yes, type in for no. I don't know why StreamYard is giving me such a difficult time. I hope I'm even live right now. But the truth still remains the same, that I am a big fan, big fan of how we have dealt with all of this. Okay. Now, coming up, we will talk to an LSU baseball superstar, a guy that I trust more than anyone else when it comes to the day-to-day coverage of LSU baseball. Okay. He'll be joining us for the 4th time on PHL, Mr. John Eads, in about 20 minutes. All right. The next thing, when it comes to these SEC league meetings, I am so freaking sick and tired of the SEC looking for sympathy. All right. There is a lot that has been said of Greg Sankey. I don't like or dislike Greg Sankey one way or the other. Personally, there are things that he has done, though, that I have enjoyed, things that he has done that I have not appreciated. Of course, he is under fire by many in the college football media right now, but more so under fire by college football fans that are not in the SEC. This is so key to keep in mind when it comes to Greg Sankey. He isn't the guy that controls everything. He works for the university presidents. Now, it's not quite the same as Roger Goodell working for the NFL owners, because there's no entity in all of sports that is more powerful than the NFL owners. All right. So it's not quite an apples to apples situation there. What I would tell you, though, is this idea that the rest of college football should kneel down to the power of the SEC just because Indiana and SMU proved to be fraudulent last year, and it pissed off the rest of the SEC. And then you have some other schools in the conference that saw how difficult it is to be in the SEC, or this new look SEC. So now they want a new way of determining the college football playoff. Just because you're in the SEC does not mean you should be able to have every last excuse in the book for playing the most difficult schedule in all of college football. That is not something that you can always point to as a reason why you are better than this team or that team. It shouldn't be the only thing. One thing that was, brought up consistently, and Kalen DeBoer talked about it today. And I have so many clips pulled up. I've been studying this. StreamYard's giving me an issue right now, so I'm just going to go off here. All right. I'm really pissed off right now. But the truth is, Alabama's been talking about how much more difficult their schedule was than everyone else. When the truth is, it was their own schedule that kept them where they were in the rankings at all times. And the bottom line, as someone who banged the table for Ole Miss to get into the college football playoff, I thought Ole Miss, outside of Oregon and Ohio State, was the best team in college football. All three of their losses were very close losses. All of their wins were by double digits. They were the best defensive line I saw in college football. Lane was the best play caller last year. Jackson Dart was good. Trey Harris was good when he was healthy. They got very unlucky with injuries, and so on and so on and so on. But they still lost 3 games. All 3 games were winnable, and one of their losses was to a bad team. One of Oklahoma's losses was to a bad team. While South Carolina did not lose to a bad team, and they had the best win out of anyone in the final week of college football that was in the running for a playoff, they had the best win. They still had their own destiny in front of them, and they choked it away. And just because I think subjectively that those 3 teams were better than SMU or Indiana does not mean that I need to completely change the way the college football playoff works for them to get in. You lost 3 games. Now, Greg Sankey makes a good point, and he has made this point that we have been making for the last 5 years on Power Hour LSU, and the point I've been making throughout my career. When I learned this in 2007, when LSU became the first 2-loss national champion. It is so much more important to avoid losing in college football than going out there and winning games. I totally understand Greg Sankey's point, and I do agree with that. But when you sign up to play in the SEC, the standard for you to get into the college football playoff is higher. That's why you get the most money out of any team in college football when it comes to your TV rights deal, outside of course, the Big Ten, which we can get to a little bit later. You get the brand of playing in the SEC. You, as an SEC football player, have a higher likelihood of being drafted in the NFL draft. You, as an SEC football player, play for the most passionate fan bases in college football. You get to play on ESPN every single week. There are so many big benefits of being in the Southeastern Conference. This is what you signed up for. So I understand everyone's trying to finagle what is the best way to get the maximum amount of SEC teams into the playoff field. I do not think an auto forbid situation in a 16-team college football playoff is a good thing, because what they are discussing now is, should they do an SEC play-in day in place of the SEC championship game, which basically means instead of the SEC champion 1 and 2 play, you have a 3 seed play a 6 seed in the SEC, and a 4 seed play a 5 seed for the right to get into the college football playoff. That is not a good way of doing things. I'm telling you right now, it is not a good way. So whatever you want to decide to do, I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to support LSU. I'm still going to support the SEC. But I am very much against 4 auto bids. I do not think that's a good idea. I really, really, really don't. Because I do think there would be years you could get 5, 6, 7 teams into the playoff. I really do think so, with the way things are going. But to limit yourself to only 4, I don't know if that's what you should do. I don't know if the play-in game style that they are discussing is the best way to determine things. I think the best way to do an SEC championship game is to have the 2 lowest seeded playoff caliber teams go at it. So for this past playoff, it would have been what? It would have been Tennessee versus Alabama for the right to go into the playoff, right? So it would have been the 2 lowest seeds for that one spot. I would prefer that than a gazillion auto bids or that auto bid weekend that they are discussing. But my overall arching point is everybody wants to play in the SEC. Everybody. And I'm not just talking about football. These athletic directors and powers that be need to understand that we are in the best era. We are in the golden age of SEC sports. You right now watching this today will never see the SEC dominate the way that they are dominating right now, because it is hard to dominate any harder than the Southeastern Conference is dominating everything right now. I understand that they have not won the past couple of college football playoffs, but they are still the best football conference. You have the best basketball conference coming off the strongest college basketball season in the history of the sport, according to people that have covered college basketball for however long. Ask Mike DeCourcy, Andy Katz, anyone like that, they would probably tell you that this was the best conference. And they're not SEC guys. Ask Jay Billis that. He's not an SEC guy. Women's basketball, while it is a little top heavy with South Carolina and LSU, and Tennessee is not where it once was, you still have 2 of the top 4 programs in the sport. LSU, South Carolina, and then, of course, you have UConn, and then, of course, UCLA or whoever you want to argue is that other one. All right. You're the best there. You are the best women's college basketball conference if you look at it from a top-heavy approach. You have the best baseball conference. By far, it has never been more dominant than how it is now with the SEC. You are dominating the regionals. There are so many SEC teams hosting regionals. 8. Softball, dominant. Now, of course, Texas A&M and Arkansas, they did what Texas A&M and Arkansas do. They had all-time great softball teams, and they choked. But still, the College World Series, dominated by the SEC. Track and field, dominated by the SEC. Gymnastics, dominated. Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, who just won the Natty. LSU, of course. We have never been in a more golden age. And the only thing I hear is these powers that be bitching and moaning about the future of the college football playoff. Auto bids this, auto bids that. Please sympathize with us because we play the toughest schedule. Suck it up. Suck it the freak up. Quit bitching. I'm so sick of hearing it. It is fatiguing the rest of the college football fan base. It really is. And what made college football great is that it truly was a regional sport that was, for the most part, accepted nationally. But now it is amazing. All my non-SEC buddies that I talk to, like, they're so tired of it. They're so freaking tired of it. But it's just constant bitching and moaning. Constant. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. So, once again, I have no idea what happened to the song. I've gotten a few texts saying that the live chat's not working, but I can hear you. I don't know what happened because I hated how much work I did for tonight, and I'm dealing with all these technical things, and I've already been told it's not me. All right, I thought it was me, but of course, this is what happens. I'm still bullish on the future of college football. I go back to what was an interesting rant from Josh Pate, who I've agreed and disagreed with. We talked about it some on Sunday night, about if any of this feels the way that it used to feel. And the answer to that is yes, when the games are actually being played, you still feel that same majesty, if you will. But I saw this Georgia fan who replied and said, look, you look at Georgia, they lost, and said he didn't feel anything. He said, look, we're still going to make the college football playoff. So I totally get it. I totally get people complaining about that. I've complained about that ad nauseum, but I'll be honest. I should be excited. Garrett Nussmeier on the cover of the EA Sports new football game that's coming out. I should be excited. I'll probably buy the game and never play it to support the athletes. But man, I'm so sick of it. I'm so freaking sick of it as they rip this great sport from our hands. And that's, the brilliance of it is like every week was a playoff week. Every single week. Let's go to BT. He says, how high would I rank this LSU receiving core currently? Are they top 5? I wouldn't say they're top 5 in college football. Top 5 in the SEC? Obviously, you would put Alabama. They have the best receiver in the SEC. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Texas, of course, they got Ryan Wingo coming back. They're definitely in that mix as well. Georgia went out and got Noah Thomas, which I thought was interesting. But yes, I would have LSU top 5. I would in the SEC. Larry says, what is my remedy to beating Clemson? Well, for one, it's stopping the QB run game. Until we stop an actual mobile quarterback from beating us, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. And I think a lot of you feel that same way. You're not going to believe it until you see it. All right. But the truth is, I think LSU has a really good shot of winning this game, even though I've said what I've said about a very real possibility that our offensive line just cannot keep up with them at all. But I also think our defensive line can make life for their offensive line very difficult. So the likelihood of this game, LSU and Clemson, just being ugly is very high. Because if your trench play is falling apart, you cannot stop what they are doing defensively. It it is the most simple way to make a game ugly is by winning the game defensively with only 4 guys up front. And there is a very real possibility that Clemson could do that and run away with it. It is a very real possibility. I also think the opposite of that is also true, where LSU's front, their defensive line, can completely engulf Clemson. Now, before we get to our guest, I do want to bring up something that Kirby Smart said earlier today, that the big thing that concerns him is the college football transfer portal. Now, part of why SEC league meetings in Destin are so difficult is that there are so many different things that they discuss. Notice none of what we have said up to this point has had anything to do with revenue sharing, which is probably the second biggest thing that is on the agenda for Greg Sankey. The biggest, of course, is the college football playoff because it does make so much money. And then the next thing is the House settlement and how all of this is actually going to look. And they're talking with Deloitte on how they're going to do the NIL transparency, BS, whatever. All right. But Kirby Smart had something very interesting to say about the portal. He said there should be only one portal and that it should happen in January. I agree with him that there should be only one portal, but I believe it should be in the spring. And there's a few reasons why. All right. And I will give those coming up. But I want to get to our guest. He is joining the 4-time PHL Guest Club. It might even be 5. He's a guy that covers the day-to-day of LSU baseball, unlike many others. It is Mr. John Eads. John, good to see you, man.
What's going on? Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it. It's great to see you.
You were at LSU's college baseball reveal show.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything there that happened that stood out to you? Now, we can get into the analysis, but, you know, that's kind of a weird place to be because you know you're a national seed, and they get what to me looked like an easy regional. So your thoughts on their reaction and that whole day for you?
Yeah, well, Skip Bertman was there, so I think that was pretty cool. And as far as the reaction of them getting the 6 and all that, nothing crazy. I mean, they've been in so many NCAA tournaments. They're the powerhouse of college baseball for a reason. Powerhouse, you know.
There we go.
Ties in, right? So as far as them actually getting the C, just, you know, a bit of a clap, some cheers and stuff. But I think that everybody within that program kind of knew going into it that they were going to be a top 8. You could make the argument that Coach Johnson knew before the SEC tournament, the way that he kind of decided to do things. And even if he didn't, you know, I feel like LSU did enough. And if you look at 19 SEC wins, and historically that's enough to get you a top 8. So they got a top 8. And my boss, Jacques, is close with somebody that kind of has, you know, their hands in these kinds of decisions and stuff. And he told me and my coworker, Kevin, before the SEC tournament that LSU would be a top 8 seed. So me going into it, I was like, okay, cool. Sounds good. And so not much of a surprise to those who knew. And I feel like the program kind of knew that would be the case. It's kind of weird that they're the number 1 team in the country, yet the number 6 seed. But considering what they got as the draw, I think they don't mind that at all. So that was kind of the reaction. I also got a video of Coach Johnson. I really tried to zoom in on him and get some facial expressions, and there were a lot of facial expressions. The one that really stood out, though, is when they said DBU is going to be an LSU's regional, and it's on my Twitter. He kind of just starts going like this, like, you know, and then I zoom out, and then Anthony Ianson and Kate Anderson were in the bottom right of the screen, and they gave each other a little dap up. So it seems like they were pretty happy with the draw. Dallas Baptist is the 2 seed. LSU already played and beat them. Of course, that was 3 months ago, but it happened, and you've seen them, albeit, you know, a different team at that point in time. The 3 seed is Rhode Island. They won the Atlantic 10. and they're pretty good. They steal some bases. They get some walks. Pretty solid all year. They played Oregon. They actually beat them in a game in a 4-game series. And then the 4 seed is Little Rock, Arkansas Little Rock. Shout out Arkansas. So LSU will play them in the regional opener on Friday at, I believe, 2 o'clock in the day. And they have a losing record. They got hot in their conference tournament, as you often see. Sometimes you'll see that in basketball, a bid stealer. That's what they did. Pitching staff has not been great all year. They were hot, though, in the conference tournament. They do walk. They do some things okay on the offensive side, but they have a lot of flaws. So when you zoom out and think about some other regionals where you've got SEC teams in there, some good ACC teams in there, and teams like Northeastern that have 48 wins, you'll take that. And then you're paired up with the Clemson regional, which has Kentucky, West Virginia, I think USC Upstate, and then Clemson. None of those teams really scare you, in my opinion. And if you're going to have one SEC team in a regional you're paired up with, I think Tennessee is the one you would want. Alabama's dangerous. Florida's good. Tennessee's obviously good. So all things considered, the road to Omaha seems extremely possible if LSU just handles its business and plays the brand of baseball we saw for most of the year.
Oh, I thought that they were paired up with Clemson. My bad.
They are paired up with Clemson. Yep.
Okay. Right.
But
yeah.
Kentucky's in there. Clemson's hosting. West Virginia's in there, and then South Carolina Upstate or whatever is in there too. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've covered this team. You've gone to all the press conferences. I think everyone's saying LSU got the easiest regional is something Jay Johnson does not want his team to think at all.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's like hammering home. No, we did not get the easiest regional. We still gotta go out there and treat this, because UALR is gonna come in here like this is their College World Series. They did not think that they would get this opportunity to play in the premier college baseball destination.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like Tulane when LSU hosted a couple years ago. A team that was well below 500, but was hot at the right time. And you can't just roll out there and expect to beat them. Obviously, you got to play well. So, yeah, I mean, of course, in front of the cameras, in front of people who can influence public opinion, he's going to say, no, it's not the easiest regional or whatever the case may be. That's why his kind of the answer he's been resorting to is I don't have any thoughts on the draw.
Okay.
But you got to feel like confident, seeing what some of the other regionals look like versus yours. I mean, this one sets you up very well to have a potentially easy weekend. If you come out and, as I said, play your brand of baseball, you can get guys through games quickly. You might be able to get some guys some experience. Obviously, you can't play around, but this is a lot different than last year where you're playing Wofford, who has a Zach Cowan as its Friday night ace and plays an extremely disruptive brand of baseball that really makes you think on every pitch. Long Island was Long Island, no disrespect. I went to college in New York, so I feel like I'm allowed to say that. And then North Carolina was an extremely good team. They went all the way to Omaha, of course, last season. So plus you're not going on the road. I was talking to Coach before practice today, and I think that's the biggest storyline that's going to get overlooked here is that, yeah, you're playing at home, and yeah, you've played better offensively and really in totality at home, but you didn't just play 5 games in Hoover. You played 2. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that you only played 2. I know LSU fans want to win every single tournament they play in, and you did a live show on this the other day, and I listened to some of it. But you need to be patient and think about the bigger picture. Would you rather win the SEC tournament? I asked one of my coworkers this today. Would you rather win the SEC tournament or go to Omaha and win the national championship? Obviously, the latter. So this team is going to be a lot more well-rested heading into this tournament than they were last year when they played 5 games, came back, had to practice, then get on a plane immediately and go and play 4 more in Chapel Hill. This time around, you haven't played since Saturday. You've been home. You've had some days off, and you don't have to travel anywhere. And you're back in the comforts of your own home. So it's really just a great situation all around for the Tigers, and I think that's really going to allow them to play their best baseball here in late May, early June.
Who is the one guy that needs to step up at the plate? I know everybody has struggled swinging the bats, but man, I have pained through Monster Milam not being as hot as he was early in the season. But I know everyone's pointing to Monster Milam. He was the best postseason clutch bat last year. But is there anyone else that you want to see step up at the plate?
Well, with Milam, I think he's going to have that postseason breakout because breaking news, he's bringing that crazy hair back.
Oh, he
Not
is?
the same
Let's
style, I
go.
don't think, but he's going to be bringing that back, he told me. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like. We'll find out, but that can't hurt. You know what I mean? So, and he's also been really good defensively. Like, he's not just a guy that is a power hitter and he doesn't affect the game otherwise. Like, he plays really good defense. So I think he'll start to figure it out, and the hair is going to help. To me, it's Derek Curiel, the freshman.
Yes.
He's had a great season, but he's gone hitless in, I think, 5 of his last 6 games or something like that. And the top of your order is where you, like any team, you need the production from. And it's so difficult when you start every inning if Curiel's leading off with a strikeout or an out, because so many times this year, this team has benefited from getting off to excellent starts, having guys on base, and Curiel is so good at that. He almost, I believe he's in first or second for the team in walks. That's been his strength all year, and lately he struggled with that for whatever reason. So every inning in Hoover especially, I was like, all right, if they're going to do something, they need Derek to really get them off to a good start here like he has many times this season. And he's kind of just looked out of character recently, but obviously batting over 350 on the season. He's had a tremendous freshman year, and we all expected him to kind of have that slump at some point. You hope that was it the past couple weeks and that postseason play gets back on the right track. But to me, the top of the order has been money for you all season. Like, I was watching the Dallas Baptist highlights back. How did the game start? Derek, I believe, walks. Jared hits a double off the wall in left center field, and Curiel's home, and it's 1-0 LSU, and there's been 2 batters in the entire game. That's how quickly you can score if Derek's on base. So to me, it's your leadoff guy. It might be a cliche and an easy answer, but when you think about what he's done recently and what he means to this team, especially when they're playing very well, that's why I picked DC.
Who makes the best fast food chicken nugget?
Wow, that is a Zach Cowan changeup, bottom of the zone. Was not ready for that one. I was thinking fastball. Best fast food chicken nugget. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a fast food chicken nugget.
Oh, so you're a healthy eater. Are you a healthy gym bro?
I try.
Good.
It's difficult when you're on the road. What I do when I go on the road is I go to the nearest grocery store and I get a rotisserie chicken every time I'm on a road trip the first night and absolutely hound it. That's usually the route I go instead of chicken nuggets. But probably, golly, I ate my fair share of McDonald's chicken nuggets growing up, and those things were pretty dang good. So I probably got to go with McDonald's. You might agree with that.
God,
I small sample size, and I don't know. I haven't had Chick-fil-'s. I don't eat fast food very much, so I'm the wrong person to ask. But if you need a good rotisserie chicken, guy, I had a Mardi Gras rotisserie chicken in Hoover. Who knew there'd be one of those there?
Well, what is a Mardi Gras?
I have no idea. There was like garlic on it and some stuff. But it was either that or like plain. So I said, let's go with the one with a little bit of, swag at least.
LSU makes the College World Series.
Yep.
You think so?
Yeah, I've thought so since the beginning of the year. And I mean, that's not a hot take because that's the expectation for this program every year. But I think so. The road runs through Baton Rouge. They've played it's just a fact. They've played extremely well at home this year. And every time they've gone on the road and fans have been like, out with the pitchforks, like, gosh, this team is terrible. What have they done? They've absolutely smacked the next opponent that came to Baton Rouge every single time on the Friday. And then if they didn't sweep, they played 2 good games. I'm pretty sure they won every series. Well, I know they won every series at the box this year, conference play, if I'm not going crazy. At the very least, they've won all those series. They've always just bounced back and responded well. I literally asked Jay Johnson point blank, why do you think your team can win a national championship? He points to the mindset, the way that they bounce back, the way that they move on quickly from victories, they move on quickly from defeats. The pitching, especially recently, you got your 1-2 punch in Ianson and Anderson. And as long as they pitch well and your offense gives you a couple runs, you got 2 wins right there. That takes care of a super regional. And it gets you off to a good start in a regional and at Omaha. Not to mention the bullpen looked really good in Hoover. And you've had Kason Evans and Zach Cowan all year, but now Chase Shores is emerging. Jaden Newt is stepping up as maybe a third starter for you. Jacob Myers throws 102, and he's finally throwing strikes. He threw, I think, 2 1/3 with 4 strikeouts, no hits, no walks. That's beautiful. The fielding for most of the season has been top 10 in the country. And then we know what this offense can do. They've averaged 10 runs a game for most of the year, especially when they're playing at home. So, yeah, they got everything they need. They just need to go out and execute. That's it. It's cliche. It's stupid. It's coach speak, but that's it. It's as simple as that. They're not missing anything the way I see it. They're missing Gavin Guidry, but he's injured. That's a bummer. Nothing you can do about that.
John Eads, WAFB is where you can find him on Twitter. I just want to say thank you for all your baseball knowledge and how hard you work covering this team. It is hard to do what you're doing. But before we go, I trust your football knowledge as well. Has there been anything that has stood out that you've read from the SEC spring meetings?
Well, I saw some stuff, on social media floating around while I was at practice today. I think my brother texted me, the SEC is leaving the NCAA. I was like, what? That's news to me. So that's crazy. I don't know. I haven't seen a ton. I listened to what you were talking about earlier in the show. To be honest with you, I'm so locked in on the baseball right now. I am not thinking about football at all. But I think that I saw a video of Sankey talking, and he seemed pretty ticked off about a question regarding, a level playing field and, love of the game and all these things, and conference auto bids and the SEC getting auto bids. And I think you may have been talking about this earlier in the show. I don't think the SEC needs any kind of auto bids.
No.
They've dominated most sports, certainly football, for many years. Most seasons, they automatically get a majority of the playoff field as it is. So I don't think we need that as the SEC. Did they officially sign that we're not going to do the weird seeding anymore where the, highest ranked champs are the 3 or 4? Is it just going to be straight 1 through 12 seeding? Is that approved? Okay. I like that. Because for one, I couldn't keep up with it. It was bro, I'm sitting down with a dinner receipt trying to figure out what's 15 to 20% of the bill to tip the freaking waiter or waitress. I can't keep up with all this. What's this seed? What's that seed? What is this? That's just, it was like that Always Sunny in Philadelphia wall with all the things everywhere. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Thank you. I love it when people get references. It's awesome. So I think that's a good change, and that's how it should be. That avoids your stupid SMU, Penn State blowouts and things of that nature in the playoffs. Right. So I do like that change. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything extremely earth-shattering. And frankly, nothing would surprise me the way the football and collegiate athletic landscape is these days, to be honest with you.
All right, John. We'll talk to you soon, big dog.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you. Much love.
John Eads, the killer. I do want to point out something here. This right here. Oh, boy. I freaking love me some Monster Milam. I really freaking do. Let's get to a few super chats. Tiger Boy says, I think there should be 13 games, 9 conference games, 2 Power Fours, and 2 rent-a-wins. All right. I think that will never get signed off. But I like where your head's at. I do. Because, look, there is a piece of me that doesn't think there should even be a playoff. When you break down college football, there are 129 teams that play Division I Power 4, or not Power 4, but, it's actually over 130 teams, whatever, that play college football. In a 13-game year, how could you determine a national champion anyway? You can't. Right now, the SEC can barely even decide how to determine its own schedule with 16 teams in the conference. Another thing about why I am so passionate about a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC is that you have such a huge benefit to some of the teams that avoid playing certain teams over the course of a year. So let's take two of the teams that made the playoff last year. Texas and Tennessee. What do they have in common? Well, neither had to play Ole Miss, who I think was the best team in the conference. Neither had to play them. Neither had to play LSU. While LSU wasn't the best team, the 3 teams that were left out of the field had to play LSU. You notice that? Alabama had to play LSU. And what happened after they played LSU? Well, they lost an embarrassing game to Oklahoma. And then, of course, LSU defeated Ole Miss. LSU defeated South Carolina. 2 teams that you could make a strong case was better than LSU last year, even though they beat them. And in those games, Ole Miss and South Carolina had a better post-game win expectancy. But LSU beat them. Texas did not have to face Garrett Nussmeier. Tennessee did not have to face Garrett Nussmeier. And I'm not saying Garrett is unbelievable, but there was very volatile quarterback play in the SEC. They had to play him. Okay? Something else. When you go to a 9-game conference schedule, there would be less of the scheduled ducking that happened. Tennessee and Texas, I felt one of those teams with a tougher schedule still would have made it, and that's Texas. But Tennessee, I don't think would have made the college football playoff field if there was a 9-game conference schedule. Because Tennessee wasn't all that good last year. And this is coming from a Tennessee YouTuber. I have a lot of respect for the Vols. They were not that good of a team last year. And the diehard Tennessee fans would tell you the same thing. Especially now that Nico's gone. They were not that good. Okay. They had one very, very, very good win. They had a really bad loss versus Arkansas. They had a really, really, really bad loss to Georgia, where they pulled away. Tennessee also played a lot of volatile games where they're winning by double digits versus Georgia and ended up getting blown out. They were losing by double digits to Vanderbilt and ended up blowing them out. They weren't that good of a team. So the SEC's problem was they did not put their best teams into the field because Tennessee was not better than South Carolina. Tennessee was not better than Ole Miss. Was Tennessee better than Alabama? I don't think so, but they beat them on the field. The college football playoff is not what makes college football great. And this idea that just because it makes the most money and because it actually crowns who the national champion is, and it does make a casual American sports fan feel better about themselves and more familiar with college football because everything in American sports is determined by a playoff. While all those things are true, that has never made what college football has made what college football made college football. that's ever made college football what made it great. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. But, to this idea, 13 games is a lot of games. But if you're telling me we should do that and then just get rid of the postseason, I could be down with that. 13 games, you play one game at the end of the year. If you're one of the top two teams, BCS style, national champion, there you go. I can't really state if anybody watching this right now, and I'm not sure because, like I mentioned, we've StreamYard, it's been a mess, but I am not sure if we are in a spot where the college football playoff is something that we even enjoyed last year. We had really only a few legendary games. Would I consider Notre Dame and Penn State a good game? Sure. But one of the teams could not complete a pass to a receiver. I still can't believe that is a real stat, but it happened in a college football playoff game. That a team with an NFL quarterback could not complete a pass to a receiver. It happened. But most of those college football playoff games were terrible. Terrible. So there you go. Now, that'll just about do it for me. We will be back tomorrow night. Big thanks to our guest, Mr. John Eads. Our top super chatter of the evening is RSX. And most importantly, I want to thank Brian Kelly and Scott Woodward for being ahead of the curve, for showing the world that they are not scared. We will play a 9-game conference schedule. They have been saying it for forever. Kudos to them. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Tonight, we are doing stakes. Let's go. Let's go.